My dad started dating a girl younger than me, so I gave him a mirror he wasn't ready to look into. My dad became that guy. The recently divorced man in his late 50s dating a girl in her early 20s. And I don't mean that in the age is just a number way. I mean it like when your dad's girlfriend is literally younger than you are, and he parades her around like a trophy. 2 years after divorcing mom because he cheated, dad started bringing Becky to family dinners, coffee shops, and basically anywhere he could show off his obvious midlife crisis. The whole thing was transactional from day one, but dad acted like he'd discovered the fountain of youth instead of just becoming a walking cliche. Over the next 4 months, dad's behavior got progressively worse. First, he started getting handsy with Becky in public, hand on her thigh at restaurants, arm around her waist at family events, whispering in her ear like teenagers while everyone else tried not to stare. Then he began showing up at mom's favorite coffee shop with Becky every Tuesday, knowing full well that's where mom went for her weekly catch-up with friends. When I called him out on it, he just shrugged and said the coffee was good. At my cousin's wedding, he spent the entire reception introducing Becky to relatives as his better half, while mom sat alone at the family table. His golf buddies started making gross comments about upgrading and asking if Becky had any single friends, which dad would laugh off like it was all harmless fun. Every time I tried to express how uncomfortable their relationship made me feel, he'd wave me off with condescending bullcrap about how I'd understand when I was older, which was rich considering his girlfriend was younger than me. By month 4, it became clear that dad had completely lost sight of how he was treating the women in his life, and genuinely believed this whole situation was perfectly normal. That's when dad called to announce he was throwing Becky a massive garden party for her birthday, complete with catering, a live DJ, and a guest list full of his business partners and their wives. "You have to come," he said, practically giddy. Becky's so excited to celebrate with family. As he rattled off details about the tent rental and how Becky's sorority sisters were flying in, I realized what this really was. A showcase for his middle-aged friends to meet her 20-something friends. The mental image of my dad hosting some kind of creepy networking event for guys in their 50s trying to chat up girls in their 20s made my stomach turn. That was it. I snapped. If dad saw nothing wrong with this ridiculous circus, then clearly I'd been approaching this all wrong. So I made a plan. Give dad exactly what he was serving. If his girlfriend could be younger than his daughter, then my boyfriend could be older than him. I spent the next week at dad's country club chatting up distinguished gentlemen at the bar after their golf rounds. And that's where I met Joe. He was charming, recently divorced, and 62 years old, putting him 5 years ahead of dad. When I explained I needed a date for a family party where I wanted to make a statement, Joe was intrigued enough to agree. I mentioned we'd probably leave early for a sunset boat cruise, giving us a perfect dramatic exit strategy. Then came the day. I arrived solo and played the supportive daughter for exactly 30 minutes, complimenting the decorations while dad's friends circled Becky and her sorority sisters like sharks. Then I excused myself to get my date. When I returned with silver-haired, impeccably dressed Joe, the main table went silent. Dad was mid-conversation with his golf buddies, Becky draped across his lap when I approached with my distinguished companion. "Dad, everyone, meet Joe," I announced cheerfully, watching dad's face drain as he processed Joe's obvious age. Before anyone could respond, I settled onto Joe's lap, mirroring Becky's position exactly, and asked sweetly, "What's wrong, Dad? You don't look so good. Maybe check if you have your heart medication." The silence stretched until one of dad's golf partners suddenly perked up. "Joe Morrison, we play every Thursday." The recognition hit dad like a brick, and he practically shoved Becky off his lap. That's when Joe and I made our exit, with me loudly announcing we couldn't stay because Joe was taking me on a private sunset cruise. My phone started ringing before we reached Joe's car and hasn't stopped. I've been sending dad to voicemail for 3 days, though I did text asking what erectile dysfunction medication he uses so I could recommend it to Joe. According to mom, he's been calling her too, asking if I've lost my mind and complaining about my disrespectful behavior. He can't grasp that I gave him exactly what he's been putting out, and apparently he doesn't like his own medicine. Our relationship may never recover, but watching him squirm when faced with his own double standards was worth every awkward second. Sometimes holding up a mirror is the only way to show someone how disgusting their behavior really is.